This is Christian Kirk, and you're listening to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Tuesday episode, the Fantasy Footballers, Mike, the Fantasy Hitman, Jason Moore, Andy Holloway, back with you.
So much.
Yeah, not every offseason show has this much action. So, here we are.
There's so much, and yet there's still so much that hasn't happened.
Well, we are in the midst of the wink, wink. We're not talking, but we're talking and signing you, period.
But also keep in mind that legal tampering period, which is the moment you can just start talking, only takes minutes to figure out contracts, because as soon as that deadline strikes, it's like, we have agreed to terms. It's like,
which is tampering squared, right?
Right. I mean obviously you were talking before this moment. You didn't just like 1 o'clock strikes, you call someone up, hey, dude, you want to do
Here's the deal.
13?
You better take it right now.
I need a verbal yes. Okay, we're good.
All right, we're docu-signing. Go, 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 go. No, that's true. It should not be able to happen 5 minutes later.
Someone had one. 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes in.
It was a defensive player. I forget who it was, but yeah, it was.
That's ridiculous. But we record off-season shows a lot of the times the afternoon before, so we can release early morning on Tuesday. We delayed this one because we wanted to get as much information into, news and deals happening every second.
Wanted to get that Rico Dowdle signing, but we wait.
Oh yeah,
we wait.
Yeah. We'll do
any minute now, Mike.
We'll do a very special episode for that one, Mike, and you can solo that one.
Just waiting.
So we have
don't hold your breath.
Piles and piles of news to talk about. I've jotted down a few kind of quick takes I want to see if you guys agree or disagree with on certain signings. We've had trades, and we're going to break it all down. I know you guys have been looking forward to it and waiting for it. A reminder real quick at the top, you can watch the show on YouTube, youtube.com/thefantasyfootballer. Subscribe, click the bell. You'll know when new episodes drop. And then the giveaway is still going on, a signed Drake London jersey, footclangiveaway.com. And you can enter for free. A lot of you have already done so. And that'll we'll pick a winner probably towards the end of the month. But you can get in there now, footclangiveaway.com. The Ultimate Draft Kit, including the newest update to the Dynasty Pass, that's available at ultimatedraftkit.com. But I don't want to delay any longer. Let's do it.
Free Agent Frenzy.
Well, we got a trade. We thought it was coming. And DK Metcalf, welcome to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
He wanted somewhere sunny. He wanted to be on that West Coast and have a good quarterback.
Warm weather, good quarterback ends up in Pittsburgh.
Ends up filthy rich.
I mean, this is a deal. Yeah, there it is. Not the only NFL player that chose money over victories, or in Pittsburgh you win, at least a little bit. But Myles Garrett as well taking the money. But we're talking fantasy players here, and DK Metcalf, 5 years, $150 million deal, largest deal in Pittsburgh franchise history. And I don't know if we know the full guaranteed money yet, but it's $33 million per year on average. Seahawks get a 2. He's 27 years old. His fantasy peak was 2020, where he finished as the wide receiver 7. Since then, the wide receiver 12, 18, 16, and 31. We know that Pittsburgh's had issues at the wide receiver spot for a little while here, and they are trying to fix that with an alpha who, Jason, you and I talked. We agreed that we view DK Metcalf as a needle mover
Yeah, he's certainly someone that's going to improve a football team. This is not great for fantasy football. I think this is good for the product of, assisting wins for the Steelers, but I kind of hate the deal. Like, he's a good player. I think he's worth trading it to and giving him a contract, but a 5-year, $150 million deal for DK Metcalf feels like, I realize if he were a free agent on the open market because there wasn't a lot of options, maybe he would have got that, but that just feels pretty pricey for, he's 27 right now. So obviously we don't have the details. I'm sure once he hits 30, that guaranteed money is probably gone. So it's more like a 3-year deal, hopefully. But when you just hear 5 for 150 plus a second-round pick, you don't have a quarterback.
Exactly.
So it's like, This is
weird.
It's kind of irrelevant. It's not going to help you if you don't have a quarterback.
Well, they've I feel like bounced back and forth between quarterback issues and wide receiver issues and trying to patch the quarterback position since Big Ben departed. On paper with Pickens and Metcalf and Freiermuth and they tendered Jalen Warren, so Jalen Warren should be back. You have the pieces that would be attractive to a quarterback. The problem is you don't really have a quarterback on the open market that is attractive.
Yeah,
so you have Aaron Rodgers.
Who's left? Yeah, Rodgers.
You got Russell. Russell could return, and then you've got.
I think the best quarterback out there who is somewhat available would be Kirk Cousins. Personally,
you just gave DK Metcalf all that money.
I think
I get it. I'd rather have him than Rodgers.
Yeah, of those three, I would much rather have Kirk Cousins.
You feel like Kirk Cousins it's over?
I don't know if it's over, but to get Kirk Cousins, it will cost a pick, and you will take on a bunch of that contract.
Maybe
somehow, some way.
It's a pick.
It's a 5-year gap between Cousins and Rodgers in age. Rodgers is 41.
Yes,
yeah,
but it will cost you a pick or a pick swap of some
unless they cut him. I think there is a world where Kirk Cousins gets cut. Yeah, they would owe him. It would be a massive hit on the cap, but they wouldn't be. That is an avenue that's been talked about. So to pay him what they're paying him right now as the backup,
dead cap is $65 million.
Yeah.
I know Russ got cut, and that was shocking back from the Denver Broncos days, but that's a huge dead cap that you got to live with for a while.
It feels like the way to get rid of him is to have him so discontented with the backup role that he renegotiates and facilitates a trade.
He could.
But agree or disagree, the Seahawks are going to miss DK Metcalf.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yes, of course their offense will miss him, but they got Tyler Lockett's out. Metcalf is out. Geno Smith is out. He got traded to the Las Vegas Raiders for a 3rd-round pick, essentially. The Seahawks are retooling some stuff right now. So they're going to try and win, but I think that their coaching staff is like, okay, we're going to get our guys in here.
It's actually
like Sam Darnold.
It's a weird thing. Yeah, Geno Smith went. Did we talk through that trade on this show yet?
No,
not yet.
So that's part of the news we need to cover. Traded by the Seahawks to the Raiders for a 3rd-rounder. The report
He's
said
back with Pete.
Yeah, back with Pete Carroll. The report said that they made him a pretty generous offer, and he turned it down, and then never submitted a counteroffer to Seattle, and then requested a trade. He goes to Las Vegas. It's a huge upgrade for Brock Bowers.
Oh, my goodness. It's massive.
And then the other name just being mentioned that maybe, Jacoby Myers, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what they do in the draft and what they have at wide receiver. But right now, like Geno Smith, I'm not the biggest Geno Smith fan. Like, I don't think he's the kind of quarterback who's going to take you the distance. It's one of the things I criticized about him in Seattle. And so they agreed, apparently, to the point of making a move, but he's a huge upgrade on what Las Vegas had in their potential. And if they go out and they draft Genty at 6 or they get some more offensive weapons. Yeah, Tetaroa, McMillan.
Yep.
If they land some more assets on that offense, it's pretty formidable. They paid Max Crosby. Pete Carroll is the kind of head coach that is very impactful, I think, your first couple of years in a locker room on a culture. Not saying that they're going to be hyper competitive, but they'll be a better football team.
Yeah, they will. If I were building a franchise, and I know the contracts weren't equal, but I would rather have Geno Smith than Sam Darnold without question. So I think that's a huge upgrade for the Raiders, probably the best they could have done this offseason.
It's so exciting for Brock. Like Geno Smith has, over his tenure as the starter for Seattle, he's been one of the most accurate quarterbacks in football. I mean, you got 3 years as a starter for him. He's basically at 4,300 yards for 2 of the 3. One more down year, but he only played 15 games. The touchdowns aren't where we would hope for him to be, but if you got Bowers on your Dino team and you're staring down Aiden O'Connell and all these other guys, and it just who could it possibly be?
Even a rookie.
Like Geno, exactly. It
it's
doesn't.
It's even
there's
better. It's better than a rookie.
It's massive
in the short term.
It's so much better. They're like the Raiders didn't seem like they had an avenue to get yourself a competent quarterback for fantasy purposes, but this is a home run if you got Bowers.
Yeah, what were those numbers you said? 4,300 passing yards?
So in 2022, he was at 4,282, so just under, and then last year was over 4,300.
That's just not a realistic goal for a rookie quarterback coming in.
It's
if
not.
They had ended up with Sanders or who's the Jackson Dart. Yeah. So it's huge for Bowers and whatever else they have in the passing game. It's weird circling back to Seattle and losing Geno Smith and losing Metcalf and losing Tyler Lockett. And then you see what's happening in San Francisco. For those that haven't followed, they lost
everybody.
They lost
they are burning it down.
And piles of players. The 49ers also traded Deebo Samuel. They let go of Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah.
You still got to pay Brock Purdy. Brandon Ayuk is on the edge of being traded potentially, because teams are after a wide receiver. I think New England's still in play there. So you've got 2 teams in the NFC West that are not going to look the same at all, which is just
maybe the Steelers should be looking at Brock Purdy. You know what I mean? Just because
just in case.
The Niners, they want out of everybody. Just go knocking.
We had another trade. It had been reported that Christian Kirk was going to get released. We expected him to be released, and the Texans said, let's bypass the open market here. Let's send a 7th-round draft pick and take on Christian Kirk's existing contract. If you're Christian Kirk, are you happy about that?
Yes.
Existing contract being paid out, or
yeah,
would you have been happier negotiating your final deal at 28 years old? That's more than 1 year, but he gets paid $16.5 million to go to.
Yeah, I think he should be happy with that.
To go to Houston. Here's my agree or disagree on this one. Okay. Christian Kirk is better than Tank Dell.
Ooh, that's a really good question. Christian Kirk is better than Tank Dell, and obviously injury notwithstanding.
Yeah, we're talking 2-legged
yes.
Tank Dell here.
Well, yeah, we had 2-legged Tank Dell for most of the year before the injury. And it was
he was like one. I'll give him like 1.5.
It was a disappointing year for Tank Dell. I'm just curious how you would answer that question in reality.
My initial instinct is yes, he is better. He's a very proven veteran wide receiver who I do not believe is aged out for the way he plays. He's going to be in the right spot, and I think he's a really good match for C.J. Stroud. That accurate, be in the right spot, timing, throwing, I think it'll work really well.
So a good compliment for Nico Collins in Houston. They did trade away
their offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, Laramie Tunsil dealt to Washington.
Yeah.
So C.J. Stroud, unless Christian Kirk's going to play left tackle, he's going to need some more help.
Well, they traded their offensive guard. It's so weird to me that they have multiple pieces on this offensive line. I believe they lost 3 players, traded 2 of them. And they have multiple players on this offensive line that other teams really want, trade a lot for. The Eagles. I forget the guard's name, but the Eagles traded for him, and the Texans' offensive line stunk.
Kenyon Green,
like their offensive line was terrible last year. So I don't know how to reconcile these individual players being seen as great, but then their offensive line was just like not.
I don't think you look at him as great. Tunsil is great. Like the metrics on him are he is an elite left tackle. He is going to but his contract situation is going to be really intense here coming up very, very soon. So the other guys I get yes, we got to get rid of him, but you gotta get people in. If these guys were the starters and it was not happening, it's like you would have put the backups in if you had options to replace that offensive line. So they're going to have to make some moves.
Don't be surprised. Yeah, when the NFL draft transpires and they are heavily into fixing the offensive line. Tunzel will be 31 before the season starts as well, so some decisions to be made there. So those were the big trades other than the Browns getting Kenny Pickett, Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett.
They fixed it.
No, not quite. But let's talk about the signings here. The Seahawks fixed their they trade away Geno Smith, and then they went out and paid $100 million to Sam Darnold, who will depart the cozy Minnesota situation with Kevin O'Connell and an offensive line and Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson and Aaron Jones, and will go to Seattle, where they just let go of DK Metcalf, where JSN is existing all by himself in an empty room right now. How do you feel about this move for Seattle? Do you feel like it was a desperate move because things didn't work out with Geno Smith? Do you feel like it was the right move? Obviously, from an affordability standpoint, they're paying Sam Darnold. Like, if I want to defend them, they're paying a player that led a team to 14 wins, that was a higher-tier quarterback last year, production-wise, and they're paying him $20 million less per year than Jordan Love. They got a second-round pick added to the roster. Right. So, I mean, if Sam Darnold is competent or close to Geno or better than Geno,
I mean, maybe he leveled up. The way he played football last year, you have to give him his props. He was an outstanding
for 15 of 17
for
games.
15 of 17 games.
4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 picks. The quarterback 8 in fantasy, 27 years old, so not old.
I mean, that was great.
That's younger than Burrow, isn't it?
Is he?
Joe Burrow
came in late.
Joe Burrow's 28.
Came in as an old man.
So Sam Darnold is actually younger than Joe Burrow.
But
still.
Yeah, every year it keeps coming back.
It is very difficult to see Sam Darnold, who, you were saying before the show, he was a starter in Carolina. He was a starter in New York. We've seen him not be great and get rattled, and then he did awesome work this last year for the majority of his games, but it was in a perfect situation. And I look at the situation in Seattle post Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf with a new coordinator coming in.
Do you like Kubiak and Darnold as a combination?
I mean, I like that. I think Kubiak is going to try to focus on setting up the run and protect Darnold in that way, but I just don't know that he has the offensive line or the offensive weapons.
If you had to bet on Darnold being a top 14 fantasy quarterback,
I would bet against it. I would.
I wasn't sure where to set the line. Yeah. Apparently, I set it too low.
Too high.
Too high, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you had said 16, okay, maybe he can be a top half.
Sam Darnold doesn't strike me as a quarterback that makes things happen when things go bad. You look at the trade years ago with the Rams and the Lions. You had two good quarterbacks.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this for sure.
You had two good quarterbacks in Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford, but to the Rams, they said, look, Goff can only do so much. And even though they had a good team with him, they were willing to trade a ton, a haul to upgrade to Matthew Stafford, because when plays break down, when the pocket is moving, when improvisation needs to happen, Stafford can make things happen. I don't see that for Darnold. If you put Darnold on the Detroit Lions, I think Darnold would be awesome. Having that great offensive line, a lot of weapons in the receiving game. I mean, we saw that to a certain extent last year in Minnesota. That's not how I view Seattle. I view Seattle as it's going to be a difficult year, and Sam Darnold, I don't know that he overcomes that pressure.
It's just wild because this is a 10-win team that retools on offense. Your quarterback changes. And the Seattle fans, like, hopefully you're not taking any of the negativity to be biased from us against Seattle. They're coming out on Twitter and saying, give me hope. Let me know it's going to be okay. That's what I'm hearing.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts on Darnold?
The final piece is it was leaked. Allegedly, the Minnesota Vikings offered him a 1-year $25 million deal. That was what I had seen. Now,
yeah, because they want him to be.
But that's
they want McCarthy to take over.
They have J.J. McCarthy waiting there, but you're coming off of this isn't the Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix situation in Atlanta. It was like you got halfway through the season and Kirk Cousins was failing miserably for you. Like Darnold was a success, 14 wins, and the Minnesota Vikings didn't really want him back. Like a 1-year offer to a guy who just won 14 games is not a stamp of full confidence.
Yeah.
So that would weigh into it for me too if I'm Seattle.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, Justin Fields has a new home. We'll tell you about it in just a second. All right, well, we made our free agent predictions, and this is one that that went to the place we thought he would. Justin Fields, 2-year deal with the New York Jets. Justin Fields, a starter again, $40 million deal, $30 million guaranteed. Starter for now, I should say.
Yes.
I don't feel like he's the guaranteed starter for 2 years, but 26 years old, averaged 55 rushing yards per game over the last 3 seasons. He was a top 12 fantasy quarterback in 60% of his starts in the last 3 years when he does start. Agree or disagree? Justin Fields in New York is a top 8 fantasy quarterback.
Ooh, that's
a good line.
Strong line.
I'm going to go yes. I think he'll be right about there.
It's a tough one.
It is.
It's a tough one.
Tough.
He's got a lot of, New York stank.
You could have said top 10. I think that would have been an easy, I'll buy that. Top 8.
But I mean, that's the point. Is he's right around there, a low-end quarterback one.
He's going to be a very fun later round quarterback.
When you can run like he runs, I mean, averaging 55 rushing yards a game is monstrous for a quarterback. That's why he's always been so good for fantasy.
That's a full touchdown.
Right. You just auto start with a
touchdown.
What do you like? Big picture for New York: Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, whomever they add in the draft class. Like Justin Fields, doesn't he bring quite a few question marks to what you're getting out of those other players?
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is not great. This is great news that Justin Fields is a starting quarterback for fantasy at the quarterback position. But at the other positions, this is bad news. Breece Hall, we've talked about how the only place that he has thrived over the last 2 seasons has been in the receiving game. And that is not usually what mobile quarterbacks are going to, check down, nor should they. It's a better move for the team to scramble and run, use your own legs, have that extra blocker out there versus checking the ball down. So Breece, I think, takes a hit. Garrett Wilson is still – there's hope.
Yeah.
I know. Is
that the official position of all Garrett Wilson managers, Mike? What was that sound?
It's just the Wilson Hive will look at what DJ Moore did in 2023 and just be like, that it can happen. So okay, that's where I'll put it.
It can happen.
It can happen.
Hey, they played together in college. This is reuniting.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're both super pumped. And it's just, it can happen.
I wonder how much Wilson might have impacted the choice.
The sign?
Well, I mean,
genuinely,
because his whole entire mindset changed with like, hey, I want out in New York, and then it's like, once Rodgers left, it's like maybe the writing was on the wall.
Hear me out, fellas. Rodgers comes in. Okay, Garrett Wilson was there. Garrett Wilson was set to be the star wide receiver. Rodgers comes in, and he has full control. And what does Rodgers do? He brings in all of his guys, right?
Lazard, Adams,
Cobb. And then once he gets Adams, what does he do? He just keeps throwing the ball to Adams. And here's Garrett Wilson watching this going, this is awful. I hate this. Wait. What if I brought in a quarterback buddy of mine from college, and then he just throws it to me every play?
And it's not a bad plan.
So the quick reminder of like the Garrett Wilson season is so strange. It's so weird because he finished as a top 10 fantasy wide receiver.
Man, it doesn't feel like
1,100 yards.
That feels like breaking news.
7 touchdowns. But the right before Davante Adams got there was this stretch where Rodgers and Garrett had figured at least something out, like from weeks 5 through 9. So, a 5-game stretch, wide receiver 5, 2, 20, 15, 3, and then Adams took over in the offense. So, look, it's there for Garrett. If we get a full hyper-targeting from Justin Fields, then things could be okay. The rest of the team,
I don't feel great about Brees at all.
No, his target share should go down.
And losing potential some goal line, run option situations with Justin Fields, the target totals where Brees did excel, those are nerve-wracking. Braylon Allen being still a young talent there that could work in. It's a bit nerve-wracking there. Daniel Jones to the Colts.
It makes sense. I think it's a pretty perfect signing. They said they want to compete. At the quarterback position, they're not handing the job to Anthony Richardson. You can run the same style
Who's
of
a better
offense.
quarterback?
Daniel Jones.
Than Anthony Richardson?
Yes.
So, how many starts does Richardson get next year? If you had to handicap
send me a line.
10.
Under.
The line is now
7. That was where I was going to go originally.
That's a good one.
So even having this be debated it's not good for Colts fans, because you're basically guaranteeing some sort of transition at quarterback at some point during the year, which is not a great feeling.
Richardson got benched for Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
for Joe Flacco. Like, this is it will be the entirety of the year. Like, Anthony Richardson's margin for error is so incredibly small. You give him, let's say the Colts start 4-0. He rips off 2 straight bad games after a 4-0 start. They're going to the media will be calling for Richardson to get benched.
That's the big risk with Richardson, is that you can have games that are catastrophic. You can have the game where you have 2 fumbles and 2 picks, and you complete 31% of passes, and then it just looks like you're desperate.
Yeah, I mean, and then because Daniel Jones is there, that means that Anthony Richardson will almost certainly get the rug pulled out. The only way that Colts fans are happy this year, genuinely, is if Anthony Richardson plays 17 games. If Anthony Richardson plays 17 games, you guys are thrilled. So every Colt fan out there, don't be rooting for Daniel Jones. That is not your future. That's not a happy path.
Yeah, root for wasting 13.5 guaranteed.
Yeah, which, by the way, is way more than Anthony Richardson, I believe, is getting this year.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. I mean, Daniel Jones could have gone back to Minnesota. That was an option. But looked at the competition of, McCarthy being anointed versus Richardson leaving an opportunity.
And I feel like 13 guaranteed is the team is telling Daniel Jones, you have a chance to come in here and be the starter.
That's why he did not want to go where J.J. McCarthy. It's funny because you're picking 2, young, unproven quarterbacks, and I think the reason he went there is not a money thing. It's who do I think I could beat easier, and he didn't want to compete with J.J. McCarthy.
Is Daniel Jones in the mix to be the next Baker, Geno, Darnold? Do you believe the structure in Indianapolis could afford him that?
I lean no on that one.
Not from a NFL standpoint. From a fantasy standpoint, I think Daniel Jones, if he is the starter there, will be good. He does run the ball a lot, similar to Justin Fields. He's had fantasy success in the past. He's very inconsistent, but you'll have big games from him.
And completes more than half of his passes,
which is always a plus.
For fantasy, that's huge.
That's a big plus. All right, Najee Harris has a new home. It's a 1-year deal with the
that deal got a lot smaller.
Los Angeles Chargers.
Yesterday, media out here, Najee Harris, 1 year, $10 million.
Is that what the original report was?
That's what I remember
it's
it being.
It's worth $5.25 million.
And I was shocked. I'm like, wow.
It was
there's $4 million in incentives built into it.
It was reported as $9.25 million.
Yeah.
Because they were including the incentives. Now, we don't know how achievable the incentives are. It could genuinely be closer to a legit $9 million contract.
Yeah, right.
If they're easy to achieve incentives. Since we don't know what they are, we're not sure. But he's getting at least $4 million. The question here, and I think the best question that any anybody listening could ever hear across the country, across the world.
Okay. You're building it up.
Is Andy Holloway. How do you feel about Najee Harris fantasy? This destination, let's say they do not add another premium back, a big draft pick. Najee goes in as the lead dog there. Where does he finish? Running back what?
He'll have double-digit touchdowns.
Oh, all right.
He will have just a nipple above 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Okay,
which is a common expression.
Right. Yeah, Mama always said that.
Well, we understand that's a very tiny amount.
And so
is it cold? Is this a cold nip or is this a warm nip?
Which
they're in Los
smaller?
Angeles. It's probably a warm nip. A little.
I mean, a cold nip is further over 1,000.
Oh, really? I would think that would.
No, a cold one's pointing out.
Well, it's pointing out, but it's shrinking down. It's getting, you know what I mean?
No, it's pointing.
You don't measure width. It's not. Oh, it's distance.
See, I was measuring width. Andy.
Yeah, no, actually, Mike's right. It should be.
No, I'm thinking about you're in a race.
This is problem.
You're in a 100-meter.
Yeah.
Your nips are.
No, you're right. I get it.
Okay.
You get a little bonus.
Yeah,
because you
putting
crossed the line
out.
first.
Exactly.
You're putting the chest out and to cross the line.
He beat him by a nipple.
And if it's
by our cold nipple, it was a monstrous beat.
oh boy, yeah, running back 16
with double-digit touchdowns. He's only getting to running back 16. He catches 0 passes.
Running back 14.
All right.
Look, I want to give – it's funny because you set the table for me to talk about Najee Harris. I was going to begin my remarks on this signing with let's give credit where credit is due. Here's what Najee Harris is good at, genuinely. Playing.
Yes.
He's been on the field for 17 games for 4 straight years. If you're talking about what you need in this offense, a reliable grinder that can score touchdowns – he's going to have success. Now, do I believe he will be the only one in the backfield? No, I don't. I think this team understands what it needs at running back and is going to have more of a committee approach with one more name, whether it's a draft pick, whether it's bringing Dobbins back, which I think is a real possibility. But look, Najee should be able to produce on an offense that's going to get into the red zone, that loves to run the football. I mean, to spin it back to you, let's say I say RB14 is where I would expect him to be all along. What's the ceiling to you? Is that the ceiling? Is it higher?
I think the ceiling is higher than that. If he were to be alone, and I do agree with you, this is so early. I don't expect him to be alone. I think this is a team that wants to run the ball and establish it a lot. They're going to go out and get another guy, and they look at Najee, and he's been sharing time with Jaylen Warren. He can do that. So if he's alone, to me, I think his ceiling is like running back 6 because I agree.
Oh, my goodness.
I think double-digit touchdowns are legitimately in the range of outcomes, and he can catch the ball. We know Herbert will check it down a million times, and Najee can be that check-down running back. So if you've got both of those things on a good offense, I believe he could be very valuable for fantasy.
He's more of the check it down and then fall down.
My final reminder here, this is if you got Najee Harris on your dynasty squad, you got to be doing a big fist pump here.
Yeah.
But I would say just remember last year Gus Edwards was their marquee signing.
100%.
J.K. Dobbins was an afterthought who was brought in for a league minimum, like couple $100,000, and it was not a slow takeover. It was week 1. They went, oh, Dobbins is better. If he's healthy, we're going to play him. So that's the only thing that I would be standing back to look for to happen.
Is Najee a better player than J.K. Dobbins?
Yes.
Yeah, he
You
is.
think so?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Javonte Williams to the Cowboys.
Sorry, Mike.
To the Cowboys for 1 year.
You need to apologize. The world needs an apology for this. This one is a disaster.
Oh, man.
Javonte Williams, 1-year deal to Dallas. He's 24 years old, going on 38. He was 37 among 37 qualifying running backs by yards.
That seems bad.
After contact per attempt in 2024. And it seems like just a decision here to pay less for Javonte than what they would have had to pay Rico for either guy to be the complement to a potential incoming rookie, I hope, but who knows because it's Dallas.
Yeah, the Dallas has been doing very strange things. Look, they're at the 12th overall pick. and then they don't pick again until 44. So I think I'm more on the side of I think the Cowboys, if they're going to be targeting one of these running backs, it's with pick 44. I don't think there is any on Genty as being made out there.
If you had to pick anybody in football for a rookie to compete with and beat, I would pick Javonte Williams.
Yeah, that'd be very high on my list.
That would be good. But let me ask you this.
Tyler Bidet was getting work over Javonte.
Is there a chance that Javonte Williams, let me just remind you.
Okay.
I'm so glad this is you.
He got a real catastrophic knee injury, not one of the simple ACLs. It was a multi-ligament, very bad situation. He came back earlier than anyone thought he would. The only other player we've seen kind of do that with that problem was Chris Godwin, who came back earlier and looked like he was toasted. And then, once it was 2 years later,
we're already past 2 years.
We're at 3.
This is year 3.
That's what I mean. Any chance? Can he Godwin? Can he come back strong?
What team do you have him on that you're talking on behalf of right now?
I don't have him anywhere.
We're so many years removed from that. That was the story of last year.
Last season, we were watching early on when he had a couple games where he was getting a lot of work, and I went and I watched every, all 22 snap of his, and I came away going, it wasn't him. He had some lanes to run through, and he did, and then he wasn't breaking tackles, wasn't doing anything on his own. So I would agree, this is
what a
good news for the incoming rookie.
Yeah, what a fart of a signing. Just if you're Dallas and you're doing they get a long snapper, right?
What a slap in the face to Rico Dowdle. They view that Rico's out now. It kind of was reported that now that
most likely,
he's signed. I think Rico doesn't want to come back, but it's that means they kind of chose because this was
because Rico wanted
$3 million.
more money.
Yeah,
I mean maybe Rico was asking for more money, but
I mean Rico was an undrafted guy. Rico needs to go get money right now. That should be his top.
All right,
his top concern.
Let's talk about a more exciting one potentially. Maybe not. But the Rams have signed wide receiver Davante Adams to a 2-year deal worth $46 million, $26 million guaranteed. He is 32 years old, just a little bit older than Cooper Kupp. And they chose, obviously, to move on from Cooper Kupp in this offense.
They're trying.
This pisses me off, man.
I know.
It really pisses me off. I get angry. I love Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
and
that's fine.
Davante Adams is a little bit older. It's almost the same contract. I mean, there was a lot of money to both players here. This isn't we can't afford Cooper Kupp. This is literally saying, I want nothing to do with you, Triple Crown winning, perfect for our system, Cooper Kupp, who's been a Ram and been part of our.
Can't pay for the past, man.
But then they kind of are.
Well,
no, Adams
you think Davante Adams is a significant upgrade over Cooper Kupp?
I do.
I do think he's a better wide receiver at this stage of his career, and I also think he's far more durable. And I think those two things combined. Now, I don't know. Something happened behind the scenes with Cooper Kupp, Sean McVay, in this entire organization, because you listen to McVay talk about how hard that situation was. You listen to Matthew Stafford's family talk about how hard that situation was.
Stafford was pissed.
Yeah, something went sideways, and you don't know what it is. You don't know if it's Kupp being frustrated, which I would be if I was Cooper Kupp and I had Triple Crown and I was that Super Bowl winning wide receiver, and then Puka gets all the attention. I don't know what went through it, but they bring in Adams. Now, I'd love to say, look, I trust the Rams. This is the same Rams organization that gave Allen Robinson 3 years and $46 million late stage career, which caused me to believe that they saw a guy that wasn't washed.
Yeah, it caused us to believe that, that contract gaslit us for Allen Robinson's entire season previous to that, where we all watched Robinson go, no.
We're he must be done.
It's done. This is absolutely over. And then the Rams gave him all that money, and it turned out it was. It was, in fact, over. I don't know. Watching Adams play even last year, both teams, it's not over for Adams. He's still – I think he can fulfill this this contract.
I do not think that this is bad. I don't think Adams will be a bad player. He'll be fine, but I see him as the most moderate upgrade over Cooper Kupp.
Well, let me
not a needle moving change.
Agree or disagree? Davante Adams hurts Puka more than Cooper Kupp hurt Puka.
Agree.
Disagree. So
Okay.
tie break us here, Andy.
Agree.
Okay.
But
So you hate Cooper Kupp.
Kupp was a red zone guy too. It's not like Adams is coming in and threatening touchdowns more than Cooper Kupp did. Who do I hate, Jay?
Cooper Kupp. I just love Cooper Kupp. I'm so mad at the Rams.
I just
so mad at you.
I do believe. Look, Cooper Kupp doesn't have a new home yet.
And it was reported.
He's still a Ram.
He's still a Ram.
Yeah, it was reported that if they can't find a trade, they're going to cut him.
I just wonder. I don't think his contract's going to look like this.
No, it won't.
It's not going to look like Adams' contract, and I don't know if he's going to go into a place and make us excited for fantasy, because the rapport he had with Stafford was a big part of it. And for Cooper Kupp to be successful, I feel like you need a lot of volume.
How do you explain the end of the year?
I will say that
for Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, it's very
That's
difficult.
why I'm saying something happened, man.
Yeah.
Something behind the scenes, game planning went sideways to the point where the second the season was over, they're like, yeah, Cooper Kupp's gone.
Yeah.
Like it just happened instantly. So I don't know if he was upset. Stafford maybe, was told to focal point the offense somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. The first
And I'm with
9
you,
games
dude.
the first 9 games that Cooper Kupp played 83% of the snaps, was on pace for 171 targets. He was highly targeted, very effective. Then the very end of the season, the last 3 games and into the playoffs, 82% of the snaps, he's still out there. He would have had a 17-game pace of 51 targets. He was just deleted, and I don't understand
if it's game plan or if it's the player's done. I don't know. We're going to find out. But Adams, from a fantasy perspective, do you view him as a wide receiver 2?
Yeah.
With one upside?
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't feel like it's going to be impossible for Adams to give you a lot of big weeks with the Rams.
No, I mean with Stafford, Adams had himself a fine end of
He's a
year
pretty
with Aaron
demanding wide
Rodgers.
receiver too.
He is, but I think that Stafford can handle it. I think Stafford there'll be enough to feed both those guys.
Josh, and you know what? And Puka is injury prone. So that is an aspect you're going to have to try to overcome. Josh Palmer, 3-year deal with the Bills, worth $36 million. He's 25 years old. We have been marveling at the contracts that wide receivers are getting this offseason. I think we're experiencing a little bit of an inflationary market for wideouts because the cap has gone up. The running backs aren't getting a lot of money, but then Diami Brown gets a $10 million deal.
It's also the draft. I think the NFL is telling us what they think of this draft class right now of the running
difference-making wideouts.
Yeah,
not being a
the
lot
running
of them.
backs are not getting contracts. You thought, well, man, after last year it worked out for the big guys. Certainly the market will correct. No, they're still going to be in on all of these good, cheap rookie running backs, and the draft is not full of wide receiver talent. So they're locking up these secondary guys.
Yeah. So, Palmer to Buffalo, it's hard for me not to just view that as another body among the kind of collective wide receiver room. It's hard to look at it like, do you like Keon Coleman or Josh Palmer or Khalil Shakir on a weekly basis, or is it Kincaid, or is it, it just feels like another piece of the puzzle, not like a premier piece.
Yeah.
He never took advantage of opportunities with the Chargers on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's pretty irrelevant. This is a signing that just it doesn't matter for fantasy. Palmer had opportunities with a great quarterback many times, and every now and then he'd come through, and most of the time he wouldn't. That'll be exactly what happens for the Bills. Matt Collins leaves, Joshua Palmer comes in. He'll be on the field. He'll have some long, deep touchdowns from Josh Allen. You won't know when to start him.
And if you had to pick them in order, I'd be probably going Shakir, Coleman.
Yeah.
Well, those two guys I'd pick before Palmer.
Me too.
Mike, do you disagree on that one?
I think Coleman, it's going into year 2, but his rookie season, I don't know if I saw enough that I think at this point Palmer is a much better wide receiver. I don't know if that turns into fantasy value, but if you're ordering how I'm going to take my chances, right now Palmer will be at 2 behind Shakir.
Yeah, I probably just put – the only reason I put Coleman higher is because I want something better.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The hope that
I get that.
he
I want
levels
the
up in
chance
year
of
2.
something that's not Josh Palmer. But we'll take a break and we'll talk about some of these other signings and extensions before we close it out. There's actually a lot of news here in terms of players re-signed or given extensions. Josh Allen got the largest guarantee ever given to an NFL player, which
this thing is like under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, $250 million guaranteed, $330 million extension, 6 years. The Bills, MVP Josh Allen, staying home. Which, look, every MVP, every quarterback, the next deal is going to be bigger than the one before.
Yeah, but I mean, this is how many. Kyle, do you know how many years Josh Allen had left? Because this is what you got to do. You know you're going to pay Josh Allen. Like, it's going to happen. So why not do it right now?
It's also the phone call a good agent makes.
Yeah.
Sure.
When you're an MVP or you're Saquon Barkley and you just won a Super Bowl, you call the team and say, you know what? Let's talk.
But I'm saying you're going to have to pay Josh Allen.
Yes.
Do it now. If you do this next year, it's more. It's a potentially higher percentage of your cap.
It was rumored that Chris Godwin was going to get a bigger deal than we might have imagined. He did. 3 years, $66 million, $44 million guaranteed. Godwin, if you remember, he dislocated his ankle in Week 7. It was kind of a gruesome injury. He was carted off. It was emotional. The team clearly feels like he is in a great position recovery-wise to give him this kind of money. And it was reported he turned down an extra $20 million over the course of a deal to stay home with Baker, which, look, they have stability.
I mean, goodness gracious. If you don't remember how good Chris Godwin was last year, when he went down, he was the wide receiver 2. I mean, he was
going to be the best pick in fantasy football.
Yes, unfortunate injury, but I love the fact that this contract, I mean, nobody knows how his recovery is going better than the Buccaneers, who are 100% fine just shelling out the money. So it makes me happier to trust his recovery process. Plus, this is a player who we've seen come back from injury before, so we know it's not a work ethic problem. And I'm happy he got the money. This is great news for pretty much everyone.
Great for Baker,
except for McMillions.
Yeah, it's bad for Jalen McMillan.
Yes,
for sure. It's also going to be. I mean, let's not forget there's another coordinator change, and that could be more.
Ain't no thing.
Could be more impactful for Godwin, though, than Baker.
That is very much true. But you know how we talked about, and on the things to remember, we talked about continuity really mattering. Is it possible this is continuity for Baker Mayfield?
Yes, it is.
Is changing coordinators? Like, that's what he's used to? That's the only thing he knows.
With the 2 players around him.
His only consistency is inconsistency.
His only consistency is a coordinator change. Like, if he had the same coordinator 2 years in a row, he'd be like, this is madness.
Oh, like at the beginning on his calendar every year, he has a time when he meets the new coordinator.
Exactly.
And that would get messed up.
He just schedules it annually on his calendar.
So
weekend
retweet.
Weekend retreat with new coordinator. Yeah. Every year. Aaron Jones, 2-year deal, coming back to the Vikings, $20 million, $13 million guaranteed. I'm a little surprised at the money to bring him back.
That it was that much?
I guess just like for a team that is – look, they've made moves on defense this offseason. I guess you've got it to spend when you got a rookie quarterback.
You do. I think it's
fine.
I think it's a great deal for both of them. The $13 million guaranteed, good for you, Aaron Jones. It's not an amount to me that is insurmountable for a rookie. Like, one of the big rookies could land with Minnesota, and Aaron Jones getting this deal doesn't turn me off of that rookie in the slightest.
Jaylen Warren, a second-round tender placed on Jaylen Warren. What does that mean? That means a team would have to give up a 2 to offer Jaylen Warren a contract, and that is a second-round tender worth $5.3 million. It pretty much means Jaylen Warren is a Steeler.
Yeah, it does. This is the perfect year for the second-round tender for these guys, because for running backs, Jordan Mason of the 49ers, he got tendered at the second round as well. I don't see teams being like, yeah, I'm going to give up a 2 for one of those guys who
No
I
way.
know I have to give a new deal to when I could just draft one of the rookies.
If
in
I
the
spend
second round.
I was going to say, if I spend a 2 in this year's draft class, I'm getting a much better.
Getting a rookie on a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
So it's the perfect strategy in my opinion. And Jalen Warren,
Elijah Mitchell's gone.
yeah, for
Juszczyk
San
is
Francisco.
gone for San Francisco, and
Yeah.
Jordan Mason is the returning backup to McCaffrey
It does to me
with Garindo.
like it's like Jordan Mason's the guy. If Christian McCaffrey unfortunately misses more time, they'll go right to Jordan Mason. It's for the squad that had Mason as a dynasty running back. There were bigger rumors out there of like there was like the Cowboys are interested in trading for Jordan Mason. I think that's probably gone now, but at the very least, he's locked in as the insurance back for Christian McCaffrey, which we all need Christian McCaffrey insurance these days.
Yeah. Hollywood Brown back to the Chiefs in a 1-year deal. They also signed Elijah Mitchell, former 49er running back. It's a 1-year deal for Elijah Mitchell.
That's very interesting because I feel like his skill set matches this offense really, really
It
well.
does.
Elijah Mitchell's problem has always just been staying healthy, but that's also like a 49er problem. So maybe changing to an upgraded or maybe it's a downgrade. I don't know what the grading is on this strength training process for the 49ers, but maybe they go too hard.
They're too strong.
They're too strong. They're working out.
Do they have to? It's San Francisco, right? So are all their fields like on? Is it like a hill? Because there's a lot
maybe
of.
that's it.
Do you know
Maybe
what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's
The
that's
San Francisco.
they got to have a name for that.
Well, what's the famous swirly road?
right? Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Lombard Street.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's the one.
that's
You guys don't know that?
No, of course I
Oh.
really do. I just didn't remember the name of it.
Oh.
But yeah. Anyways,
You wouldn't
Elijah
describe
Mitchell's
it as swirly?
You know, the
'Cause I do.
The
Swirly,
Falcon
I
is
would
like
say
trying to tell
zigzag.
us, the stadium's in Santa Clara. This is a bit, Falcon.
Yeah.
This is a joke.
It's just a
We're
goof.
telling a joke. We're not being serious.
Yeah, we don't actually think that they're training on hills, you dummy.
Yeah. They're a little rice-a-roni joke.
Do you
San
call them
Francisco
you
treat.
call them the Santa Clara 49ers?
No, I was just saving y'all from the comments.
We fear no comments.
Yeah.
You ever watch this show? Darius Slayton.
Drafting.
Yeah.
Drafting.
Darius Slayton, for some reason, he signed a 3-year deal with the Giants, who have tried to kick him off the boat for 6 years, and yet he has earned himself $36 million. So Darius Slayton, look,
So weird.
I know it's okay.
It's good for the Giants.
There's talk this morning of Rodgers to the Giants, so
Yep.
if it's Slayton and neighbors, whatever. Tutu Atwell, 1-year deal to go back to the Rams.
They're fine paying Tutu.
I knew you were going to say
I'm just
it.
so pissed about it, man.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for Cooper Kupp so hard. I want him to go get a bigger contract
he
now.
should come to Arizona. Zach Ertz,
Boo!
1-year deal back with the Commanders.
Boo! Although
How many years in a row
the
have
prophecy.
you tried to project Zach Ertz's demise?
Are
Are we going on like
12.
6-7 years?
So many. The booing is more just for Ben
He's
Sinnott,
beloved.
The
which
government is closed.
the prophecy is still on track, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. It's year 2.
We need a year and a half of Zach Ertz, and then Ben Sinnott becomes the new Trey McBride.
Okay. Well,
So we're not toast yet.
you know who
let's hit that Senate button. That look.
I am the Senate.
I don't love it.
the Bengals signed Mike Gesicki to a 3-year deal worth $25.5 million. That's a big deal.
You
Gesicki
sign your studs, man.
Gesicki had some big games. He was sticky Gesicki. He was a tight end 5 in week 2, number 1 in week 9. It's hard to predict. He had 10 catches in week 17.
Yeah, he won't be inconsistent for fantasy, but
Just wait for your Higgins injury.
for the Bengals offense, this
The
is
Bagels?
sorry, the Bengals.
Is that in
Cincinnati
everything?
Bagels.
Woo, that sounds like a delicious team.
the Bengals. I think this is a great sign for their offense.
He's like
'cause you
Gesicki's
can't-
like
hold
a
on,
cream
hold on,
cheese.
hold on, guys. Hey, Falcon. Bagels was just, we didn't really think it was
No.
the Bagels.
No.
That was a bit. We know it's the Bengals, just in case.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, no, got you.
like you can't just say Okay, we're going to put all of our defensive power into stopping Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, if you do that, Mike Gesicki will feast.
Okay. They also brought back Samaje Perine.
They did.
Yeah.
So hey, so far that's a win for Chase Brown.
Yeah, it is. Perine is a role player at best. And I'm trying to look through and see if there's anything else. Patriots signed Josh Dobbs to be their backup behind Drake May. They'll probably trade Joe Milton, aptly named Bazooka Joe, one of my favorite nicknames in the game.
Yeah, it's strange. Like, I don't know how you see that one game from Joe Milton and be like, we need to get a new backup in.
I think Milton wants out because he wants a better opportunity to compete. He knows that Drake May is the next 10 years.
Yeah, and I also think that other teams saw that one performance and thought, I would like to maybe give him a chance.
Also, we did not get to talk about this. Probably should have rolled it to the top, but Evan Ingram released by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Evan Ingram, fresh off of very productive seasons in Jacksonville. Last year was injury-riddled, but the year before he obviously put up the 114 receptions on 143 targets. Last year was kind of a deletion. He's 30 years old. He's meeting with the Broncos. Agree or disagree that Evan Ingram still has what it takes to be a top 10 tight end?
I agree.
I think it completely depends on landing spot. If he goes to the Broncos, no. I think only the Chargers would be the only place I would say top 10.
All right, well, that'll do it for today's episode. The free agency frenzy continues on Thursday's show. The only breaking news we got during this episode, Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders released. What a career.
Whoops.
Released into retirement.
Yes, that'll be it. But we'll be back on Thursday. Looking forward to it.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.